I'm Terrence James, and you're watching another episode of Neutral Reviews, where we do real reviews for real decisions. And today we are looking at the all-new 2023 Mazda CX-50, and I have borrowed the keys for this vehicle from Levin's Mazda in London, Ontario, who has a welcoming atmosphere, friendly service, and who offers some of the most fun and best handling vehicles on the road today, including this one. Now, Mazda has always done well in the compact SUV market with the nice looking, nice handling CX-5. But for this year, they decided to throw a monkey wrench into that competition, including in their own lineup with the addition of this all new 2023 CX-50. Now, it has been designed for that trendy Mazda buyer who is looking for a more rugged look and something that better suits their active urban lifestyles. And as you can see, this is a wider, longer vehicle and even has more ground clearance, and they've lowered that roof so you can get those active urban lifestyles up there even easier. Now, we have to be careful because often when a commodity vehicle looks this good, it's because they're trying to hide something not so nice underneath. However, to be fair, modern commodity vehicles have come a long way in what they deem acceptable. So we give you the quick facts up front, test out how they feel, and then we give you our final thoughts. So let's take a look. Now, Mazda uses their 2.5-liter inline-4 SkyActiv technology engine with cylinder deactivation and direct injection, which in this form here is capable of producing 187 horsepower and 186 pound-feet of torque. Now, in the GT and or the Meridian edition, you can actually get a twin-scroll turbocharger on this engine, which is going to boost that power up to 256 horsepower and 320 pound-feet of torque, which is capable of rocketing this 3,700-pound rugged little SUV from 0 to 60 in around 6.5 to 8.5 seconds. Now, you're looking at around a 60-liter gas tank on this with around 27 miles per gallon combined, according to my research. Now, all that power is going to keep running through a traditional 6-speed torque-converted automatic, no CVT here, thank you very much, and it is going to keep going through their front bias all-wheel drive system with brake-actuated limited slip differential and an off-road mode. And again, an excellent system for what this vehicle has designed for. And also, when we're talking about steering, you're going to be using electric steering on this, like most vehicles nowadays, put all those fancy safety features on and for packaging. And it is going to steer these upgraded 20-inch aluminum wheels, which will look really, really sharp on this vehicle. Now, I believe on the GT, they are 18-inch, 17-inch on the base, and on the Meridian, the 20s here would be standard. But this, I believe, looks the best as well. Now, they are wrapped in an all-season 245/45 tire, and you got to stop. You got 2 piston brakes up front and 1 piston in the rear, around 12.8 decs all the way around. And when we're talking about suspension, it's going to use your traditional McPherson strut in the front, but interestingly, it uses a torsion beam suspension in the rear, which is a very older system, and it's a lot more simple and cheap when we were talking about that commodity vehicle. So we're going to see if that's an issue, but it is excellent for packaging and it's very economical, and I'm sure that Mazda has come a long way with technology and they wouldn't have put it in there unless it worked. So we will check that out. But it has all got to go onto a chassis, and what it uses is the platform, actually not from the CX-5, even though it's basically the competition to that, a more rugged version of that vehicle. They're actually using the smaller platform from the Mazda 3 and the CX-30, but it's an excellent platform and it's been stretched out here. Now, in this configuration, you're looking at a 2+3 setup, of course, and it's going to be front engine, so it's going to be a little bit front heavy as well as far as that chassis goes, but most SUVs are going to be like that. And you're looking at around 110-inch wheelbase, as we said, is good for the segment and bigger than that CX-5. And you're looking around 67 decibels on the highway, which again is a luxury type decibel level, which is excellent for a vehicle like this. And I'm not quite sure what that drag coefficient is, but I would imagine it would be in line with everyone else, probably in the 30s somewhere. And we forgot to mention with the braking as well, it will do 60 to 0 miles an hour around 118 feet. And when we come all the way to the back and we talk towing, you can tow 2,000 pounds with that 2.5-liter SkyActiv engine. But if you get that twin scroll turbo, you can get all the way up to 3,500 pounds that you can tow this vehicle, which is the equivalent to one of these active urban lifestyles hanging off the back of your CX-5. So let's go on the inside and talk the facts in there. Whew. A lot warmer in here. I like it. Okay, so let's talk about facts in the cargo area. So now you're looking around 31 cubic feet with those seats all the way up, and you're looking around 56 cubic feet with the seats down, which is really good for the segment. Going to be better than that CX-5, but keep in mind with this lower roof line, that is going to limit the height of things that you can put in, especially people. Now I'm only 5'7". Now I got spiky hair, so let's say I'm 5'9". When it comes to that, as you can see, there's not a lot of headroom here. Now I am very comfortable back here. I like the angle of the seats. That in mind as well. I don't believe that they recline like some of these SUVs or pop up or flip up or anything, but they are nice and they're leather trimmed in this upgraded material here. But nonetheless, like I said, they're very comfortable. It's a good angle, but there is limited headroom there. Now, also when we're talking about cargo, we want to mention 60/40 split seats, of course, like nowadays, but you do have a 12-volt style plug-in, lots of tie downs, and a full-size spare. That full-size spare is going to be nice if you are doing any adventurous type things, because if you do have a flat, it's always nice to have a full spare if you're out and about on more adventurous type places. Now, also what we want to mention as well, it does have on all models a programmable power lift gate, which is really nice. So you can stop it if you're a little bit shorter from it going too far, so you have to jump up and try to slam dunk it to get it down. So that's really nice. And when we're talking back here, there's not a lot going on as far as amenities, but again, when we're looking at the price point and the purpose of this vehicle, that makes sense in the competition. And one thing that I do like, especially where I come from on a day like today, you got heated outside seats and 2 USB plug-ins, which is nice. Now, what else I want to mention besides this beautiful panoramic sunroof that does come standard on all models, so you do have a lot of visibility in here, which is nice, as you can see. But one of the things as well that I do like with a vehicle like this, not only does it look cool, it also makes you feel a lot safer because of that high belt line. So kind of like the old 300s Cs that Chrysler brought out years back, kind of that squished down kind of gangster as in mafia type looking roof line and the high belt line. It looks nice, but it also makes you feel quite safe. So that's quite interesting. I like the way that they've done that. Now, what I also want to mention as well back here is, if you're wondering, yes, of course, like most vehicles, that does not go all the way down. But one thing that it does do that I really like is it opens up almost 45 degrees. So if you do need to get things in and out, that does make it ultra convenient. So I don't know if there's really anything else to mention back here. So let's go up front and talk about the facts up there. Whew, okay, now up front here. So we always like to start off with the steering wheel here. It's a nice steering wheel. It looks very similar to something out of the Mazda Miata. And again, Mazda's all about having fun. So it's a fun steering wheel. Not only is it fun, it's very practical. You got hard buttons on here with all the different stuff that you would need to work, which nowadays basically is your different safety type systems in, you know, working a lot of the basic stuff on your infotainment as far as, you know, your volume and things like that goes, and track forward and track back. We'll talk about the infotainment, of course, in a second. Yes, and you have telescopic and tilting manual on here, which is nice. Good adjustment on there. Now, these seats here are very, very comfortable. So I believe that they're 10-way power on the driver's side, and you're also going to get power on the passenger side at this level as well. You do have heated and ventilated seats as well on this, and you're going to have a heated steering wheel, I should have mentioned as well, which is nice. Now, when we come as well, and we're talking about other inputs, we do have Mazda switchgear in here, which works fine, looks good. One of the things I like about Mazda, they always try to give you a little bit more of a premium type look and feel, and they have kept hard buttons in a lot of places that you need hard buttons, and they feel really nice. I know this isn't the feels portion, but they do feel nice when you click them and touch them. And if we're going to talk about that, we might as well talk about where those hard buttons are. So we do have heating and ventilation here. You've got dual zone, so it's not a special third zone back there, but there is ventilation for those folks in the back, so that's nice. But they have kept hard buttons, which I really, really like. So it's nice and easy to get through too, so it's ergonomic. You've, as we said, you got your heated seats, ventilated seats, heated steering wheel, and all your different types of temperature for your air conditioning and heating, and dual zone, all really convenient right there, which is nice, and a little digital display. Now, when we do come to the infotainment, this is where Mazda is a little bit different, and it's been a long time. I did drive a Mazda Miata semi recently, but I wasn't really playing around with the technology too much. It was more just to test the car compared to my BRZ crazy, really. Anyway, so when we come over here, when we're talking infotainment, it's a little bit different here. So it's a smaller screen. It's a nice screen, as you can see, but it's a smaller screen. It's really far away. Now, Mazda does that on purpose because they truly believe that it is safer to not have touchscreen. Now, the irony of it, as you can see here, when we put in our Apple CarPlay, which is wireless on all models, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto on here, it will be touchscreen because it's technically a touchscreen physical screen, but the way Mazda has it configured where they're programming when it comes to their stuff, no, they don't want you touching it. Now, it does take a little bit to get used to, and you do have this nice dial down here with convenient home, music, back, and navigation button really right there. So once you get used to everything, it's kind of like your keyboard or something. You're kind of going to know where everything is to feel. So I understand in principle what Mazda is saying. So if you are driving and you do get used to that, you don't actually have to take your eyes off the road. You kind of just play around and go with whatever you need to get to what you need to. However, realistically, most people are used to using a touch screen. They're not going to play around with that. They're going to get frustrated. So I don't know. I understand what Mazda's saying. I personally am a touchscreen person. I think it's safer, but nonetheless, this does work good once you get used to it. It's a really, really kind of neat system. Also, when we come up here, you have your drive modes, and on this vehicle here, you're going to have normal, sport, and off-road. And again, you're probably going to use normal and off-road the most, not necessarily that you're off-roading, but if you have inclement weather and things like that, it's nice to be able to do that quickly, and it's a hard button as well. You do, again, it's a traditional torque converter automatic, so you have a nice conventional type engagement lever here as well. We do have two cup holders. You do have rubberized things in here because, again, even though this is a premium, one of the premium versions or trims of this vehicle, it still wants to be very utilitarian because they are expecting that people are going to be a little bit more adventuresome with this vehicle, which is nice. Now, also when we're talking about screens, I don't want to forget to say that this instrument cluster or gauge cluster here is kind of a hybrid of digital and analog, and kind of like the CRV that we recently did in the HRV, and even my own BRZ. A lot of these vehicles are doing this to where they have analog and a digital, and mainly because it's digital, because you're going to get a lot more information that you can, transition through on there. But these companies are doing a really good job because, again, I'm sure on the video here it's going to look like I'm crazy because it doesn't look at all like it's seamless. But sitting here right now, I can't really tell the difference between what's analog and what's digital. And it's pretty slick and pretty nice. Again, it's not a ton of information on there as far as configuration goes, but it's nice to have it, and it's center mounted as far as that digital information goes. And when we're talking here, this is a CUV. So what about practical facts in here? What about cup holders? Yeah, well, you got a bunch. You got two in the middle here. Console, you got them in the door pockets. And again, compared to certain other SUVs, there's some compromises here as far as that level of practicality goes. It doesn't look the best, but we will do probably our water bottle test in the feels portion later. But you have them, which is nice. You do have a glove compartment here. I don't know, it looks like normal size. I don't know if you're the kind of person that puts a tablet or a computer or something in there, but it's a decent size for this type of vehicle. And in the middle here, you have an armrest, but as you can see, it does open one side or the other side, and it's deep, and you've got more USB plug-ins as well in there that you can use. So that is nice and handy. And underneath of it is where that wireless charging pad is. And again, that's going to be an upgrade that's not on the base, but most of the models that you're going to see stocked are going to have that. So that's really nice and convenient. Vanity mirrors, yes, you got them on both sides, and they're lit, and the lights are on the ceiling here. What else to talk about? I really like that a lot of these CUVs, like the ones that we've been looking at recently, including the Mazda here, they give you a lot of the safety features for free. So you're going to get a lot of that, like your lane keep, blind spot monitoring, all that cruise control, laser guided type cruise control. You're going to get all that pretty much for free. Your top level type Meridian editions, you're going to get some more sensors and things like that. But I like the way that, you know, they're not going to penalize you by not getting the most expensive version to give you a lot of those safety features. What else to talk about in here? As we were mentioning in the back, as you can see, there's a lot of visibility in here, especially with that panoramic sunroof, and also with those higher belt lines, you do feel nice and safe. And of course, this Mazda being more of a premium type of a vehicle, and this one being a higher model in the trim, you do have quite a bit of amenities in here, power, everything, you know, and even the base model. So what we want to do is we want to talk about price. So in Canada here, they're all going to be, when I say all CX-50s are going to be all-wheel drive, and they're all going to be that 2.5 liter four-cylinder. On the GT, the nice thing with the GT, you can either get the base for it, or you can get that twin scroll turbocharger, and then this the Meridian edition is going to come with that turbocharger as standard feature. Basically, it's your top trim, so it's going to come up with pretty much everything standard. Now, this is a really nicely equipped vehicle that we're looking at right here, so you do have a lot of extra stuff. What else to talk about as well when we talk about price? You're going to be anywhere from around $38,000 Canadian plus fees and taxes for that base model, and you can get all the way up about $10,000 more to around $48,000. Now that is, again, that is for that top level trim, and the GT here, you're going to range in between 43 and 45 for that as well, and you do have options to make it a lot closer to that Meridian as well. Now, it is going to be a lot more expensive. We'll talk about competition later than the CX-5, but you're also getting a lot more as well. Now, the main thing is with a vehicle like this, we've gone through the facts. Now let's look and see how they feel. Okay, now here's the feels portion. Now, if you do follow our show regularly, it's going to be a little bit different format today. We usually like to do a lot of fun, engaging field tests. But unfortunately, we've run out a lot of time. We want to bring back the vehicle to the dealer. So what we're going to try to do, again, this is one of our third or fourth times we've probably done this, but we're going to do Doug DeMuro style, if you know Doug DeMuro, where we're just going to take it for a drive, and we're going to tell you how it feels without any of those fun tests. So here we go. So one of the first things I want to say about the feels, while I'm waiting for my turn to go here, is that it is decent to back up. As you can see on this one here, you do have dynamic lines that work pretty well. And on this model as well, you're going to get that full 360 camera. And again, resolution is good, and it works really, really well. Okay, so here we go. All right, we got it in normal mode, but we're going to put it in sport. And we're going to do our traffic light Grand Prix acceleration test. All right, here we go. Woo! All right, now we're going to go hard on the brakes here. And, that was a lot of stuff that just came up here. However, it accelerates and brakes just fine day to day. As we said, this is a traditional automatic on this one, not a CVT. But really, with this motor here, without the turbocharge, it pretty much feels like a lot of the CVTs in the sense of there's not a lot of low-end power. But, you know, like I said, everyone is like this. So unless you get that more upgraded engine on a lot of these ones, if they offer it, you're going to be in this kind of boat, and it's fine day to day. With that being said, what is it like just to drive? One of the things that we mentioned was that Mazdas are fun and good handling. Well, it's been a while, aside from a Mazda Miata, that I've driven a newer Mazda, and I have to say, it's probably more than marketing, or it's not just marketing is what I should say, is this really does, out of the CR-V that we drove recently, the in the Tiguan, which again, we'll get into the competition in a second, but basically that's competition here. This really does drive better. Now, that Civic 11th generation Civic platform on that CR-V handles very car-like. I was very impressed. I do like it. The Tiguan, I am an owner of a GTI, and the Tiguan is basically a giant Golf. Same thing, drives very car-like. But this is on a whole different level. And considering it's got that larger higher ride height and everything else, it really, really does. It's between the weighting of the steering wheel, even when it's not in sport mode. Yeah, it I don't feel a lot of body roll compared to those other SUVs. It feels a lot more car-like, and it just kind of feels neat in here. Like I said, I used to sell vehicles for Chrysler years ago, and when the 300 came out, everyone wanted it because of that high roof line and the high belt line, and this reminds me of that. It feels kind of neat in here. Yeah, lots of greenhouse space, as we mentioned before. You got lots of visibility in here, especially with that panoramic sunroof. I like the way that that's across all models as well. Yeah, it is pretty quiet in here as far as road noise and things like that. One of the things I want to mention is this vehicle here, which I appreciate, has a lot of those safety features we were mentioning. But one of the things that I'm finding with a lot of these vehicles, because my personal cars do not have it, it is something to get used to. And some are more aggressive than others. I would have to say this is kind of in line with the other ones I've driven in the sense of it's a little unnerving. And what I mean by that is, you can feel it tug at the steering wheel just a tiny, tiny bit if you get a little outside of where you're supposed to, but you get used to it. And you know what? I have to say the more I go with a lot of these safety features within reason, they would scare me as time progresses if they're not maintained properly. But right now, I mean, they are kind of handy if you do use them properly. And this vehicle here seems to have lots of them, and they're not, you know, not really bothersome. That infotainment, as I said, it was kind of hard to get used to, but now I really like it. I really, really do. It's hard to get used to in the beginning, but once you do, it works really, really well. Yeah, everything just in here works really well. So did it for the Volkswagen, and so did for the Honda. I mean, when we look at competition, we might as well talk about it now between those vehicles. And now that I've been in them all, I don't know. This one definitely drives the best. It's kind of a neat little look to it. I really did like that HRV, or sorry, the CRV as well. HRV was nice, but as far as this competition goes, I did like the CRV. It's a little bit more simple than this, probably equally as capable. But yeah, no, I really, really like this. I'm really, really impressed. Really what the differences are going to be is that Volkswagen, it's going to offer you a third row, which is a little gimmicky. I mean, I think it's more marketing. You can use it, but it's not all that practical because it's a small vehicle to have a third row in, but that's kind of its angle, among other things. Whereas, you know, this vehicle here, you're not going to be able to get a hybrid. So if that's something that's important to you, then you're going to want to look at that new 2023 Honda, if that's the competition between those three. So that's kind of its angle on that one. But generally speaking, they're all very, very similar. It's pretty much picking the one that you're going to like best. And when you're looking at its own competition with the CX-5, again, it's kind of two different buyers. Similar buyer in the sense of you're looking for a vehicle with this kind of price range and this type of size, but really this one here is for folks that are a little bit more adventuresome or like the idea of being adventuresome, whereas that CX-5, to me, it's a little bit more truly urban in the sense of you probably wouldn't go out of the city limits too much. It looks, you know, more that you would take it to the opera for the night than ever leave the city limits, where this is kind of both. You know, it's definitely really, really nice, and you can dress it up or dress it down. I feel like you could take this to the opera, but, you know, it is definitely something that you would feel comfortable going to the cottage in as well. Not comfortable just in the sense of it rides comfortably and it's comfortable in here, but as in it would give you confidence, especially with that off-road mode. This vehicle for sure is not meant to be an off-roader. It's the kind of adventure that you're looking to go if you got a cottage, you want to take a small boat somewhere, something like that. Basically get off the off-beaten path, but no, it's not a true off-roader or anything like that. But yeah, all in all, I'd have to say this is a very, very nice vehicle. You know, it's brand new, so who knows about reliability and all that type of thing, but Mazda is a pretty good company, which leads me to my final thoughts. Now, if you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe, turn on your notifications, and check out one of our other related small SUV reviews so we can get more cool cars like this one and our upcoming review coming up on the all-new EV Solterra for Subaru, which is really exciting. And I would also like just to give a shout out to all the subscribers so far, because we hit the 1,000 subscriber mark the other day, which means we are a fully monetized channel now, and we really hope to take this to the next level, like other popular shows here from Canada. So thank you very much for your support. Now, as far as it goes, as far as my final thoughts here, I have to say, yeah, I'd have to recommend this vehicle. If it comes down between that Tiguan and the CR-V, I would have to say I don't think you could go wrong with this one. When we were saying in the beginning that one of the things that you kind of have to be careful of, not just with Mazda, but with anyone, when you get a commodity vehicle, and when we say commodity, it's one of their money makers, that sometimes they'll cheap out and take things away, especially when you get something that looks this good on the outside. You kind of got to wonder sometimes. However, I have to say that what we said in the beginning is true, which is these commodity vehicles have come a long way. I've been in project work a lot in my life, and sometimes I don't always agree with what an MVP is, or minimum viable product, basically your baseline. But these manufacturers have come a long way on what they're willing to offer in both materials and quality and things like that. And I'd have to say this is a very, very, very good vehicle. And I think if you did buy it, you would get lots of enjoyment out of it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next time.